Welcome, everyone. This is Jana Stafford with BIC Magazine. Today, I'm joined by Peter Dumont, Chief Innovation and Digitalization Officer and Managing Director with AG&P Americas. Peter, thank you for offering some of your time to BIC Magazine today.
Oh, you're welcome, Jana. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome, too. Let's get right to it, shall we? Can you tell me about AG&P and its work here in the United States and around the world?
Sure thing. So, yeah, AG&P is probably not a well-recognized name here in the United States, although it was founded here over 120 years ago, actually in 1898 on the East Coast in the Mid-Atlantic. But shortly after that, it moved to the Philippines, and it's been continuously operating there since. Privately held business, over the years have built infrastructure around the world, including here in the United States, provided modules for many capital projects here. And the business has grown steadily over that period of time. Today, the business does a little shy of about $1 billion in revenue a year, just to give people a feel for scale and scope of the business. We operate around the world, and in the United States here, we have an office based in the Woodlands, and that's where we operate our United States operations out of. And what we do as a business globally, and here in the United States, I'll start with globally, is we are primarily getting into the clean energy space. So we've become a real player in the emerging LNG market globally. But we don't make LNG. We do the opposite. We regasify LNG. And so that's one of our sweet spots. And we've been developing LNG regasification terminals and also associated technologies like modular regasification units, for instance. So we own technology, we do engineering, we do fabrication, we do construction. And in the LNG space, we actually also operate as an owner, facility developer. An example of that is there is currently a project we're completing in the Philippines. It's the first regasification facility of its kind in the Philippines, where we're the co-owner of that when we have a partner. We did all of the front-end planning, all of the engineering, all the procurement and fabrication, all the site construction, which we're wrapping up now. And then we'll commission, turnover, start it up, and then actually operate it. And so there's an example of kind of a full-scale type of business or type of project we would do in the LNG space. We also then do gas distribution. And because it's nice to, take LNG and turn it into gas, then you either have to do something with it, like produce power at a power plant, but in some cases, it's actually distributing gas to points of service, houses and businesses and so on. So we do that as well. But the other portion of the business is called construction services. And that's really the historical piece of the AG&P business. That's the business that was founded so long ago and has kind of grown and become really the bread and butter and core of AG&P over the years. And in that respect, we do fabrication. So we fabricate pipe and steel, and we also do module erection, and we do site construction services as well. And we do that around the world. And so here in the United States, we do small cap projects, medium cap capital projects. So small and medium cap projects, we do maintenance work, we do turnarounds, and we do that in the oil and gas space. We do that in all other types of industries too, pulp and paper, but even also in some of the manufacturing areas as well, like semiconductor and data centers, and even getting into automotive now as well. So we're a growing business here in the United States, and we're on a pretty aggressive growth path. And that's really built again around that small, medium cap maintenance turnaround work, but then also supporting the module fabrication work globally and even the LNG business globally.
Wow, yeah, you really are growing fast, and I had no idea that it had been around that long. The company had been around that long, so that's interesting. Well, Peter, what led you to work for AG&P?
Well, I've actually only been with AG&P officially as an employee since March of this year. But I worked for AG&P as a consultant several years ago. That's how I got to know the business. I'd heard of them because if you're in this, oil and gas construction space, over time you kind of run into everybody. So I was familiar with AG&P, but then I became a consultant for them in late 2018, and then that carried into about the COVID timeframe. And part of what I did at that time was help AG&P in the Americas here build a foreign worker program to bring the highly skilled Filipino workers from the Philippines here to the United States, both highly skilled craft and also skilled indirects or project management staff, for instance, schedulers, planners, cost engineers, quality inspectors, and so on. And so that was successful, got that program built. And then I moved on to other things in the world of consulting and construction management. And then I got a call early this year from the leadership at AG&P and asked if I would consider, coming on full time. And so that turned into a yes, and here I am. So, and it's been a lot of fun.
Gotcha. Well, AG&P Americas is a fairly new enterprise, but as you just discussed, it already has quite a national reach. And I know you already explained a few of the projects, but maybe you could give a little more details on some of the projects you've completed or that are underway.
Sure. Well, historically, we've done projects for several of the kind of large household names that many of the listeners on this call probably be familiar with. We've done, module fabrication for companies like BP and Tesoro and Dow Chemical. Today, we're doing projects. We have quite a few in the fabrication space. So we're working with some, major fabricators on the Gulf Coast. And due to the confidentiality requirements in those contracts, I probably should not share those names, but we have several fabricators we're working for, and also general contractors. And then that's really where we get into kind of that other space, like automotive, for instance. And so we're trying to basically, we're on a pretty aggressive growth path here, but we also want to do it in a very measured way where we really are, managing risk for the business, but making sure we do work that we know we can do and do well, and do it with clients that we like and that like us and that we want to have a good relationship with, and kind of build the business alongside several key clients. We don't have to be everything to everyone, I like to say, but we would like to be something special to a select few clients that really appreciate the work we can bring to the table, and that treat us right, and then we in kind will deliver excellent value for them.
Great. How are some of these U.S. Projects different than AG&P's work across the world in energy?
The United States here, we're really focused primarily in this construction services space. We're really growing around that. We're growing around the site-based construction or maintenance or turnaround work. Also working in the fabrication space, and there's a big parallel there to the work we do back in the Philippines in fabrication. We have the Philippines' largest, we're the largest industrial employer in the Philippines. We have the largest fabrication and module erection facility in the Philippines, and so forth. So to that extent, here in the United States, we look a little bit like that back in the Philippines. So that's one parallel. One difference is that we're not here working in the United States in the capacity of an LNG developer, an LNG operator. Now, we support the global LNG business. In fact, we have people here on our team that are very active in incubating the next LNG opportunities, technical support services, doing engineering work for those LNG projects, but we're not actually working in them here today. But one opportunity I'd like to pursue would certainly be there's many LNG projects that are happening here in the United States, especially in the Gulf Coast, and we believe we can provide a real value added service in doing module work for some of these facilities. Our facility in the Philippines, is a low cost, high quality module fabricator, and that might be attractive to some of the U.S. based LNG owners and developers here.
Well, I know you wrote an article for us recently in Big Magazine and compared the construction industry to Rip Van Winkle in the past. What do you mean by that?
Well, yeah, hopefully that was taken in the proper light. Look, sure. I also have the other role I wear in addition to running the Americas, as you mentioned, is an innovation and digitalization officer for the business globally. And I've been in that world for quite a long time. I've been very active in groups like CURT, the Construction Users Roundtable, the Construction Industry Institute, CII, in other groups. I've been active, let's say, in industry associations and so on. And I've also been part of the ongoing work called under the umbrella OS2 Operating System 2.0. And that article was really written in that light. And the whole idea here is just, look, we've got a a large global industry called the construction industry. And some estimates like McKinsey estimates that it's roughly maybe a $13 trillion a year industry globally. So it's a massive, massive spend globally to build the infrastructure that humanity needs. Yet we tend to be fairly bad at it, really. And what I mean by that is I'm not trying to pick on our industry too much, but we have not advanced like other industries, like manufacturing, retail, and other industries. And you can see that in almost any measure that you look at: productivity, cost and schedule performance, just general business results. And I find if you talk to many owners out there, you'll ask them, and how are you doing with your capital projects? And almost across the board, they'll tell you my projects cost too much, and they're right. But if you talk to the contractors doing those projects, they'll often tell you I'm not making any money, and they're also right. And so we really have a business issue. And the business issue is that we really need to get more capital efficiency. We need to build more for the limited dollars that we have globally, which means we have to get more innovative a lot faster. So this is the Rip Van Winkle comparison. People remember Washington Irving's story. He fell asleep for 20 years, then woke up and looked around him and said, "What happened to the world around me? While I was in a slumber." And so the contention has the construction industry been in somewhat of a proverbial slumber for a while? So while all these other industries have advanced very rapidly, we haven't done so as fast, but we need to. It's mission critical for us. It's imperative. We have more infrastructure we need to build. We have developing parts of the world. We have clean water and energy we need to deliver. You've got all these other existential issues happening, like the Russia-Ukraine crisis that's causing energy constraints that we have to deal with. And so we have to start taking very seriously our mission as an industry to get a lot more innovative and a lot faster. And it's not just a technology solution I'm referring to, it's a business solution. So we got to contract smarter. We've got to collaborate better. We've got to treat each other better, less friction, more collaboration in our relationships and how we do business. So it's a real holistic approach. They often say, it's not just technology. You have to have people, process, and technology together to create, a better way of moving an industry forward. So that's generally what I was referring to in that article. So thank you for asking.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you mentioned it's not just technology, and my next question is specifically about technology. So can you give me some examples of how technology continues to be integrated into AG&P's construction efforts?
Yeah, sure. So, well, we have a couple areas I'll address on technology fairly quickly. One is just licensed technology. I mentioned that earlier. We actually own specialized technology in LNG that we can sell either individually as a technology packaged unit or integrated as part of our integrated projects that we do, our EPC projects. So there's one element of technology. The other element of technology is just technology and how we build. So this gets us into the world of integrated digital platforms. We're investigating those now. We're advancing our back office, if you will, technology very quickly now. That's an effort I'm co-leading with our global CIO, who I'm working hand in hand with to develop that. And that's everything from our back office ERP system upgrades we're doing, but probably even more importantly than that, it was like digital end-to-end solutions that are based on the modern best practices, leading best practices of lean project delivery, like pull planning, but also AWP, advanced work packaging, which is a best practice from CII, and several other integrated tools and techniques as part of that approach, because we want to serve our clients as efficiently as possible as well. That means we've got to be easier to do business with, less friction, easier contracts, but we also have to be good stewards of information and data, because projects at the end of the day are just a manifestation of data. And so it really gets back to better intelligence around data management, data integration, and then being able to collaborate across company boundaries using technology platforms that are smooth and work well, and they're always current, give us that true one source of truth. You hear that a lot in the industry these days. So that's a major initiative we have underway in the business now.
Well, working in construction is obviously safer now than it used to be 50 years ago, but where else can the industry improve in this?
Well, it's interesting. Safety is a great story. We often joke in our current leadership discussions that the industry knew how to be safe before the owners demanded that we be safe. But it ultimately took the owners to say, thou shalt be safe, for the contractors to finally wake up and say, okay, now we'll go ahead and take safety seriously. Before the owners came together and really demanded, and this was probably in the late 1980s, I would guess, going off memory, and really started pushing the safety initiative in the industry. The United States kind of industrial total recordable incident rate was around 7 to 7.5 total recordable incident rate, which is terrible. I mean, by today's standards, I mean, you certainly need to be less than 1, and in many cases, really, really close to 0. And so over the years, with owners driving this, push into the contractor community to be safe, the community has responded, and we've generally become much, much safer than we were. We're not as safe as we need to be, clearly. And nobody would argue that. We have way too many fatalities, and still one injury is too many. But nonetheless, we've done better as an industry, and we're still on a quest to doing better. But beyond that, we have to get better at some of those things I talked about earlier too. We've got to contract smarter. We've got to buy more intelligently. We've got to design smarter. We're really good at, I like to say, bespoke design, bespoke construction. The engineering construction industry historically likes to build unique things. We're often proud of the unique process technology we have, or the unique plants that we build. The problem is when everything's unique, it's inefficient. That's what manufacturing learned a long time ago: design one, build many. So I see future innovations coming in spaces like that. That will beckon new commercial models, where we have to basically pay differently, so we can really incentivize the engineers and the fabricators and the constructors into more of a design one, build many sort of strategy. And we at AG&P are positioning our business for that very thing. We certainly see opportunities in many of the sectors from a design one, build many approach. Now, it won't all just be innovation there. We'll see other innovations in further technology. New material science is coming out in the construction space. There's alternative building materials like low carbon concrete, like alternatives to structural steel. We see innovations in just the intelligence on a job site, with drones and robotics doing reality capture. And those things are going to continue. And I'm excited about all of that. The challenge for the industry is, how do you assimilate all of that? How do you look across this whole portfolio of possibilities and say, wow, there's all these different technologies. How do I pick? And so that's going to be another piece of the magic, will be, how do companies select what technologies that they adopt, and how do they incorporate them into their business, so they're not just chasing every shiny object, but they're actually making intelligent decisions about how to improve their business performance.
All right. Well, pivoting here, let me ask you, why has AG&P globally focused so heavily on liquefied natural gas?
Well, for us, it just makes sense, because if we look at the energy situation globally, certainly there's a major transition that's been underway for a while to decarbonize the planet. That's no mystery. Everyone's got an ESG, environmental social governance strategy. And we really see at AG&P that clean natural gas is got to be part of a diversified energy portfolio, really, for any nation in the world. No one country, from the United States or China or Russia, all the way down to the smallest of nations, can rely on only one energy source. Wind, solar, they're all great. They all have pros and cons, right? It requires some amount of nature to be conditioned correctly for those, alternative energy sources to work. So it always makes sense for a country to have a backstop energy source that's there and reliable when needed. And we see natural gas really playing a big role there. One, it's a prolific energy source, especially in the United States. We have a tremendous amount of it here, but so therefore we can supply a lot of it to the world and to ourselves. We just see it just makes sense from a business standpoint to be a specialist, a global leader now in the regasification and distribution of gas to places in the world that need it. Emerging nations, take for instance India. We have a major long-term contract with the government of India to distribute gas to over 80 million points of service over a 20-year period of time. And this is important for a growing country like India, who's investing in other types of things like clean water and 5G internet and so on, to also now have clean energy for their homes and businesses, and CNG, compressed natural gas stations, and so on. So to us, it just makes sense. We have projects coming in the Middle East and in Africa and other parts of the world that are going to need natural gas. So we really want to establish ourselves as a leader in that space, and so far we have.
Peter, it was really good getting to spend some time together today. Let's wrap this interview up. And thank you again for talking AG&P, construction, LNG, and more with BIC Magazine today.
You're welcome. Thanks. It was fun to be with you. Thanks, Jan.
Good. Yeah. For those interested in learning more about AG&P, visit agpglobal.com. As always, we are most grateful for our audience. Please like and share this recording with colleagues. And for more industry news, videos, webinars, and podcasts, visit bicmagazine.com. And remember, it's what we do together that counts.